Algebra 2 students to the homework help video, page 233. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. Numbers 5 through 15. They want us to solve the quadratic equations. I believe they want us to leave our answers in radical form. Even though they didn't say that, I get all of their answers in the book are in radical form or whole numbers. And then numbers 17, 19, and 21, they want us to solve by rounding to 2 decimal places. Alright, so here we go, guys. Let's go ahead and jump into this right away. Number 5. Step 1 is to simplify both sides. There's obviously nothing we can do to both sides. Step 2 is eliminate fractions. There are no fractions. Step 3, move all of your x squared terms to one side and all the other terms to the other side. Well, here's your only x squared term. Is it on one side by itself? Yes. Are all the other terms on the other side? Yes. So the next step is divide by the coefficient. So we're going to divide by 2. Divide by 2. And we're left with x squared equals 16. Next step, take the square root of both sides. The square root of x squared is x. The square root of 16 is 4. Don't forget, you chose to put in the square root. So put plus, minus, or positive, negative. There's your answer. If you substitute positive 4 into this equation, you will get out a true statement. If you substitute negative 4 into this equation, you will get out a true statement. Alright, number 7. Step 1, simplify both sides. There's nothing you can do. Step 2, eliminate fractions. Well, I'm going to multiply everything by 3. Because A, I like to get rid of my fractions, and B, my denominator's 3. 3 times 1/3 is 1x squared, or just x squared. 3 times 4 is 12. Okay? So I took 3 and I multiplied it by both terms. Okay? Next step, take the square root of both sides. No, I'm sorry, the next step. Get all of your x squared terms on one side and your constant terms on the other. Well, all my x squared terms are on this side. All of my other terms are on the other side. So we're good. Lastly, divide by the coefficient. There is no coefficient. Well, there's a 1 here, but dividing by 1 won't change anything. And then I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So if you take the square root of x squared, it'll be x. If you take the square root of 12, you'll get this. Now again, on a test or a quiz, don't forget your positive, negative. On a test or a quiz, you're more than welcome to type that into your calculator, but for this first section, we're just going to leave our answers in radical form. Now, later on this school year, I'll expect you to take 12 and write 4 times 3. Cross off the 4, put a 2 on the outside. So if you did that, that's okay, but you don't have to. Even though you've learned that in the past, we're not going to do that until later on. The book tells us to do that, okay? So don't worry about this now. This is perfectly fine, okay? And if you don't understand this, don't worry about it. I'm going to teach you that later, okay? All right, number 9. Step 1, we are going to simplify both sides. These two terms are unlike terms, so we cannot combine them. There's no simplifying here. There's no simplifying here. There's nothing I can do. Step 2, eliminate fractions. There's no fractions. Step 3, move all of your x squared terms to one side and all other terms to the other side. Well, here's my x squared term. It's the only one I've got, so it's already on the left side. I'm going to take this negative 5 and bring it over, and it becomes a positive 5. So now I'm left with 4x squared equals 14. You know what? I have not shown you that any of these answers are correct, have I? That answer was correct. That answer was correct. And now this one here. So, I moved my negative 5 over and made it a positive 5. Okay, now, are all of my x squared terms on one side? Yes. Are all other terms on the other side? Yes. Next step, divide by the coefficient. These cancel. X squared equals 7 over 2. Reduce this. 7 over 2. Now, and of course, students, where I got 7 over 2, I reduced 14 over 4. Now, take the square root of both sides. The square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 7 halves would be this answer here. If you type this into your calculator, you will get the exact same decimal as if you typed this into your calculator. So where did this come from? I'll be honest with you, either answer's fine. Here's what they did. Instead of reducing, now watch carefully, I'm going to teach you something here. Instead of reducing 14 over 4, they left it 14 over 4. Then they took the square root of both sides. The square root of x squared is x. Now watch. The square root of 14 over 4 is this. But anytime you have the square root of a whole fraction, you can split it up like this. Do you see that okay? Do you see what I did? The square root of 14 over 4 is the exact same thing as the square root of 14 over the square root of 4. Now, what is the square root of 4? Well, it's just 2. So that's where they got plus minus square root of 14 over 2. Now, which one of these do I recommend? Either one is fine. Now, later on this year, we're going to learn how to take this, go like this, rationalize by multiplying the top and the bottom of the square root of 2. But don't worry about that now. All I want you to know how to do right now is simply solve these equations. So most of you, if not all of you, would have this answer right here. But if you had this answer here, that's totally acceptable also. Okay? Alright, moving on to number 10. Or number 11. Step 1, simplify both sides. There's nothing you can do to this side. We have unlike terms. There's nothing you can do to this side. We have unlike terms. Next, eliminate fractions. There are no fractions. Next, we're going to move all of our x squared terms to one side and all other terms to the other side. So this 2x squared comes over here, becomes a negative 2x squared. This 9 is moved over, becomes a negative 9. So negative 1, negative 2, you owe me 1, you owe me 2. Now you owe me $3. You owe me 6, you owe me 9 more, now you owe me 15. Alright, now, next, divide both sides by the coefficient. So we divide both sides by a negative 3. X squared equals 5. Because a negative divided by a negative is positive. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Next, we take the square root of both sides. The square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 5 is positive negative square root of 5, okay? Which is the correct answer, alright? Number 13, step 1, simplify both sides. Now you cannot simplify the left side. There's nothing you can do. However, the right side, you can take this 2 and multiply it through. So 2 times x squared is 2x squared. 2 times 3 is positive 6. Step 2, eliminate fractions. I don't see any. Step 3, move your, and this should be a 3 right here, shouldn't it? 3x squared. Sorry about that. Next step, get all of your x squared terms on one side and all the other terms on the other side. So I'm going to bring this over and make it a negative 2x squared. I'm going to bring this negative 7 over and make it a positive 7. So positive 3, negative 2 is 1x squared. If you don't want to put the 1, you don't have to, okay? In fact, I'm not going to. But you can if you want to, it's okay. X squared equals 13. Next step, divide by the coefficient. Well, there is no coefficient except the 1. If you want to divide by 1, you can, but it won't change anything. Now take the square root of both sides. The square root of x squared is x. The square root of 13 is plus minus or positive negative the square root of 13. Okay? Alright, moving on to number 15. Okay, step 1, we're going to simplify both sides. There's no simplifying on this side you can do. We have unlike terms. We have an x squared term and a constant term. Nothing over here you can do to simplify it. So next step, eliminate fractions. Well, I have a denominator of 3, so I'm going to multiply everything by 3. 3 times 2/3 is 2. 3 times 6 is a positive 18. And 3 times 18 is 54. Alright? Now, next step, get all of your x squared terms on one side and all other terms on the other side. So bring your 18 over, make it a negative 18, and you're left with 2x squared equals 36. Okay? Next step, divide by the coefficient. Well, my coefficient is 2, so divide both sides by 2. X sides, the square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 18 would be positive, negative square root of 18. Alright? Now later on this year, are you listening? Later on this year, this will not be an acceptable answer. Later on this year, you're going to learn to take 18, break that down to 9 times 2. The square root of 9 is 3, so put a 3 on the outside, like this, okay? But for now, this is exactly what you need to have. Okay, now, for numbers 17, 19, and 21, the book wants us to type the answer into our calculator and get out decimals, okay? So that's what we're going to do. Alright, here we go. Number 17, step 1, simplify both sides. There's nothing I can do to either side. Step 2, eliminate fractions. There are no fractions. Step 3, get all of your x squared terms on one side and all other terms on the other side. Well, here's an x squared term. It's on this side. If we can move this 4 over and make it a negative 4, then we'll accomplish our goal of getting all of the x squared terms on one side by themselves. So 7x squared equals 8. Now, next step, divide by your coefficient, which is 7. So I'm left with x squared equals 8 over 7. Now, take the square root of both sides. The square root of x squared is x. Now, here's where you need to know how to type this in your calculator. With a graph, or for that matter, with most scientific calculators, you find your square root button. If you're looking for it on your graph, or I don't have mine with me, it's on the left side. It's one of your shift buttons. You'll have to hit shift first. But you hit square root, and this will pop up, and then hit 8. And I actually on a grapher, you hit square root, and this pops up with a parentheses. All of that pops up. Then you type in 8 divided by 7, close your parentheses, and hit enter. And if you do that, you're going to get, don't forget your positive, negative. By the way, that's the number one mistake students make on tests and quizzes, is they forget their positive, negatives, plus, minus, okay? It's going to be positive, negative, 1, positive, negative. That's really good, isn't it? Positive, negative 1.07. Alright? Rounded to 2 decimal places. Number 19, step 1, simplify both sides. There's really nothing you can do. Step 2, eliminate fractions. No fractions. Step 3, get all the x squared terms on one side and the constant terms on the other side. So bring your 5 over, make it a positive 5, and we're left with 3x squared equals 14. Next step, divide both sides by your coefficient. In this case, your coefficient is 3. So divide both sides by 3 and you're left with this. Now take the square root of both sides. The square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 14 over 3 would look like this. Type that into your calculator correctly and you will get positive negative 2.16. Okay? If you're having any problems typing this into your calculators, email me and let me know. Number 21, step 1, we're going to simplify both sides. There's nothing we can do. Step 2, we're going to eliminate fractions. Nothing I can do. Step 3, get all the x squared terms by themselves on one side. So bring your 3 over, make it a negative 3, and you're left with 2x squared equals 7. Okay? Next step, divide by your coefficient. In this case, your coefficient is 2, so we're going to divide both sides by 2. X squared equals 7 over 2. Next step, take the square root of both sides. The square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 7 over 2 would look like this. Now with your calculator, and again, if you're having any problems typing this into your calculator, email me and let me know and I can help you with this, okay? But if you type this into your calculator correctly, you should get positive negative 1.87. If you round to 2 decimal places. Alright, the directions for 23 and 24 are a little tricky. Well, we'll do 23 first. The directions sound a little confusing, but let's just take our time and think this through, okay? The surface area of a cube is 326 square meters. How long is each side? Now guys, relax, don't panic, think. What is the formula for the surface area of a cube? Do you remember this? Let's think this through, okay? Remember, here's the surface area of a cube means you find the surface area of each side, add them all together. Well guys, is not a cube going to have 6 congruent sides if it's a perfect cube? Think of the Rubik's Cube. All of the sides are the same measurement. Okay, so I want to find the surface area. Let's find the surface area of this top side here. Watch. X times X. If this is X here, then this is X also here. Do you understand that at least? If this has a length of 5, then this would have a length of what? 5. Got it? So, if this has a length of X down here, right here, then this has a length of X up here. So, anytime you have a square like this, how do you find the area? You multiply side times side. So, the area of this top face is X squared. So now if you add up all 6 sides, think about it. You've got a top side, a bottom side, a left side, a right side. What I put right for? A right side, a front side, and a back side. All of those have an area of what? X squared. They want us to work with the surface area. Well, in order to find the surface area, you find the area of each side, you find the surface area of each face, then add all the faces together. So you've got x squared plus x squared plus x squared plus x squared plus x squared. That's the surface area. The surface area equals 6x squared. There's a 1 here, a 1 here, a 1 here, a 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. Think about if you have 1x squared plus 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 1x squared, you're going to get 6x squared. Okay, so the surface area for this cube is the surface area equals 6x squared. Now we can substitute the 326 for the surface area because it says the surface area is 326. So for surface area, put 326. And now look, x is the length of one side. How long is each edge or each side or edge? Actually, they're right. It's called an edge. How long is each edge? X. Well, I can solve for x. We know how to do this, guys. It's a quadratic equation. Step 1, simplify both sides. Nothing I can do. Step 2, eliminate fractions. Nothing. Step 3, get off your x squared terms on one side and all other terms on the other side. Did it. Next step, divide by your coefficient. Okay, I'll do that quickly. Divide by 6. And I'm left with, let's see, it's going to be a fraction, I believe. Yes, 6 does not go into 326 evenly, so we'll just reduce it. 2 goes into both of these. We'll get 163 over 3. Okay, there we go. Now, take the square root of both sides. The square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 163 over 3, well, you have to type into your calculator. Don't forget your positive negative. If you type that into your calculator correctly, you will get this right here. Okay? That was a pretty tough problem. Back it up and watch it again if you need to, okay? I mean, it'll make sense if you think about it. But what you had to do there is you had to go back to geometry class. And remember, how do you find the surface area of a cube? Well, you find the area of one side, and then add all 6 of those together, or multiply it by 6, however you want to look at it. Okay, now number 24. Actually, as I'm talking right now, I'm opening my geometry book and I'm looking, because I actually forget the formula for the surface area of a sphere. So if you forget that also, don't feel badly about that, okay? Alright, let's see if I can find this real quick here. I found it. It's on page 620 of your track 1 geometry books from last year, for those that had track 1. So here we go. And by the way, on a test or a quiz, I would give you the formula, okay? I would totally give you the formula. Alright, surface area of a sphere is this. Surface area equals 4 pi r squared. Well, they gave it to us right here, didn't they? Now that is hilarious. Did they give it to us in the last problem? No, they did not. Okay. So I don't feel as dumb. Okay. Well, there's the formula right there in front of you anyways, but I guess I need glasses. Alright, there we go. Now, find the radius. So let's make some substitutions. First of all, they tell us the surface area is, see this number right here? Don't let that pi freak you out. It's okay, no big deal. The surface area is 576 pi, okay? And we don't know what the radius is. That's what we're looking for. So we'll leave r. Now don't let this pi freak you out, guys. That is not a variable. It is not an unknown. Did you hear me? Let me say that again. Pi is not a variable. It's not an x or a y or a z. It's a number. Pi is 3.14. Now whatever you do, do not put... Sorry guys, I had to pause the video. Do not put 3.14 in for pi and then multiply it times this. That's not what you want to do. Just leave the pi there, okay? Now watch this carefully. Notice we have a quadratic equation. We have a variable whose highest exponent is 2. So we know what to do. Step 1, simplify both sides. Nothing I can do. Step 2, eliminate fractions. Nothing I can do. Step 3, get all of your r squared terms on one side and your other terms on the other side. Now, this whole thing is one term because they're all multiplying. Remember, the only way an expression is broken up into terms is when you have positives and negatives. And we don't have that. We have multiplication. So this is one term and this is one term. So are all of my x squared terms on one side? Yes. Are all other terms on the other side? Yes. So the next step is divide by your coefficient. Well, my coefficient is 4 pi. Now you can see why I did not want you to put 3.14 in. Divide both sides by 4 pi. This cancels out, leaving you with r squared. Look what cancels here. Your pi's cancel out. And 4 goes into this. Let's see. Once. 144 times. Okay? So 4 goes into this evenly 144 times. Now, take the square root of both sides. The square root of 144 is 12, because 12 times 12 is 144, and the square root of r squared is r. Don't forget your plus minus. Well, actually, now think about it. You should put positive, negative usually, but in this case here, you would not put the negative sign, because guys think we're dealing with a word problem. We're looking for the what? Radius. How could your radius ever be negative? So your answer is just 12. That is the radius. 12. 12 inches, actually. 12 inches. And the last problem here, this should have been meters. Meters. Okay? Alright guys, back it up again and watch if you need to. It's one of the benefits of a video class, okay? Number 25. Oh my goodness, Pythagorean's theorem. Oh, this is old school here, guys. We do this in middle school. Here we go. Pythagorean's theorem, remember, it's L squared plus L squared, leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. Here's your right angle. It always points to the hypotenuse. So here's your hypotenuse. So one leg is 3. The other leg is x. And by the way, it doesn't matter if you turn those around, okay? They're both legs. So the x and 3 can go in either one of those two places. And your hypotenuse is 5. Look what we got, a quadratic equation. Step 1, simplify both sides. Okay, I can simplify this side. 3 squared is 9, and 5 squared is 25. Step 2, eliminate fractions. There are none. Step 3, get the x squared terms on one side, everything else on the other side. So bring your 9 over, make it a negative 9. X squared equals 16. Next step, divide by your coefficient. There is no coefficient, a 1, but that's fine. And now take the square root of both sides. The square root of x squared is x. The square root of 16 is positive negative 4. But hold it, we're dealing with the length of a side, so we would not have a negative. It would just be positive. So x equals 4. And you guys should know that by now. Remember, a right triangle that has a leg of 3 and a leg of 4 will have a hypotenuse of 5. It's called a 3, 4, 5 triangle. Okay? Alright, moving on. Number 26. Same thing. So here we go. We're going to solve for missing legs. So we have leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. Okay? For one leg, I'm going to put 9. For the other leg, I'm going to put x. For my hypotenuse, I'm going to put 41. And here we go. We have a quadratic equation. We can solve this pretty quickly. First of all, 9 times 9 is 81. 9 times 9 is 81. And yes, I'm stalling. I'm trying to get a calculator out here. Alright, 9 times 9 is 81. I'm getting out my cell phone calculator here. 41 squared would be 1,681. Alright, now, next step, eliminate fractions. There are none. Next step, get your x squared terms on one side and all other terms on the other side. So bring your 81 over and make it a negative 81. And that would leave you with x squared equals 1600. Okay? Next step, take the, divide both sides by the coefficient where there is no coefficient. And next, take the square root of both sides. Well, the square root of x squared is x. The square root of 1600 is positive negative 40, but hold it. We're dealing with a length of a side of a triangle, so we do not want the negative, okay? So x would equal just positive 40. Guys, I really hope this homework help video has been a help to you. If you have any questions at all, never hesitate to call or email.